I'm making a little box to sit in the back here if I need to carry stuff, like if it's raining or something, some small tools and stuff, because this toolbox is full here. I have somebody in the cab with me. We can't have skill saws and electrical tools or whatever case may be sitting here when someone's trying to sit here. So what I built, and no, it's not on video, I didn't feel it was that important to actually put it on video, is I built this box. This is pressure treated, the bargain wood that I get at Home Depot, so I had to build it onto what the dimensions are for the wood. This is I believe 10 inches, so the box is like 40 inches by 30, and the bottom was bowed out, so I had to put this in there. This gives me a little place to store stuff. Now over here is one of these threaded studs with a wood screw on one end and a machine screw on the other. It's a 5/16 18 thread. And it's steel. Unfortunately, it's going to rust, because they don't make it in stainless or brass. At least I can't get it around here, and I'm not going to order online for something like this. What I'm going to do is put these cheap handles, one on each end, and primarily it takes two people to carry this. I can carry it myself to get it into the truck, but this handle is going to really serve more putting a bungee cord through it and keep it secure so it doesn't slide around in the bed of my truck. So we're just going to mount. It's a cheap dollar store special handle. I can get better ones at $5 a piece, but I couldn't see spending that. And these here, I'll show you what I did. What's going to happen is when the top goes on, which I'm going to show you in a minute, the washer goes down on top of the top, and then the wing nut goes on. It means a pain in the neck to take off the wing nuts and everything, but I didn't want to put a hinge on this and the top. I didn't want to get that fussy with it. Over here is the top. Now each one of these pieces, right now there's a bolt going through each one of these because I glued them in place, and they're just temporary bolts. There's a 3/8 inch hole here. This top is made with a slight round on it, almost like a coffin if you think about it. And if you look here, disregard this nut and bolt going through, because that's just holding the piece of wood on the inside. But that's a rubber washer right there. Sitting up here on the tarpaulin temporarily here are the 4 fender washers and the 5/16 wing nuts. And I even got a couple extra wing nuts here in case I lose one, taking the top on and off. I don't anticipate taking the top off all the time. Most of the time this thing's going to be sitting in the bed of the truck with little or nothing in it. And it's pretty heavy, so it isn't going to blow off. This is made with 1/4 inch Luan right here. Okay, that's 1/4 inch Luan. And you can see, look here, it's got the bow in it. And the reason I put a little bow in it is to have the water run off, and I painted it with the Rust-Oleum oil base so it'll last a long time. I caulked the corners, and it's not the best caulk. I'm going to let that dry for 24 hours before I can put some oil base on that. So we'll just let that set. And inside, just basically to throw a skill saw in here if I have to do a job for somebody, because I can't get nothing in the toolbox of the truck. That's impossible. That's filled right up. So the tools that I need to take for whatever I'm doing, whatever project I'm doing, or my cousin wants something done or whatever, I'll be able to put the stuff in here. So if it's raining, it's not going to matter. Before, I used to have to throw everything in one of these buckets over here, one of these things, and of course, that's fine if you get a good sunny day. What do you do if it rains? What I'm going to do now, and I'm not going to put this on video, of course, but I just want to show you. And this is basically a relatively simple box that I threw together with some 2x3s in the corner. And some of these strips, they overdid it with the green paint at Home Depot. That's a 51-cent piece, and it was about 5 feet long. So anyways, and the reason for this arrow is because the cover can only go on one way, because none of these are exact. This one's in the center and this one's off center, so it just happens to be the way I lined it up by eyeball, not by exactly professional way to do things, but I don't claim to be a professional by no means. When this glue over here dries a little more, give it another hour or so, I'll come back on the video. I'll take out these temporary bolts and we'll drop the cover on. We'll just show you what it looks like. Wanted something the full width of the truck bed, but I didn't want it as long as the truck bed. I just wanted something I can put stuff in, but I can put tools in here. The only thing I won't be able to get in is the chop saw, but I don't anticipate, I don't use that much on the outside. I keep that around the house. Primarily it's for tools like this, my porter cable, trim saw, and my saber saw, my Bosch flush cut saw, which I've showed you before. Little things like that. Or, of course, my skill saw. And that blade was rusty when I got it. And I put WD-40 on it. I've showed you this before on videos. I got it at the yard sale for $5. You might say, well, why don't you use your toolbox? Well, this is why. This is car stuff. And nothing to do with anything else. You know? All car stuff. Because this thing here is filled up to the gills. So I have to have another box back here. What originally I wanted to do was to have it come way out to here, over to here, but that's not going to quite reach. So with the two handles on each end, I'll be able to put a bungee cord through and just hold it here, so keep it from sliding back and forth in the bed of the truck. It'll just be pulled up and held up here. Tools aren't going to be kept in here. It's only when I have a project to do for one of my relatives or friends that I use this. I pre-drilled with a tiny bit, very tiny, just enough to get these screws started. Now, this is galvanized sheetrock screws. Now you can see she's coming through the edge. This is only like, I think 5/16. It's not quite a 1/2 inch plywood. So what you want to do is you take another piece of stock like this, and I'm going to clamp it onto here. I'm going to trim this down a little bit though, because I can have enough to do that side too. Clamp it on here, glue it of course, so that when the screws go through, they'll go through and into this plywood, and they'll actually hold this plywood in there. So anyways, that's a hint, a little hint there. If you're wondering, you want to screw something in, short of using nuts and bolts. Now I'll get the top and show you how that looks on when I put the top on. Before I put the top on, we're going to remove these temporary nuts and bolts that were holding this 1/4 inch Luan block onto the top. So I need both hands, so I'm going to set this camera down and take off these 4 temporary nuts and bolts that I have in there holding that on there. If I didn't do that, when I glued these blocks in, I would have had to use brads and stuff, and I couldn't see doing that because the glue's sufficient. But this just gives me a little more strength, because when them studs, which are these studs here, if I didn't put that in, that Luan is so thin that it would poke a bigger hole in there and it would tear up the Luan pretty quick. So those blocks are a little like reinforcement to make the wood a little thicker in those 4 places. Okay, what I had done here, these are the rubber washers over here. Each corner has a rubber washer. You can see we got a clear shot right straight through here. Now what I'm going to do is put the fender washer on here and then the wing nut. Then I'm going to put a little greaser or something on each one of these, because this is regular steel and it's going to rust out pretty quick. That's the unit. Kind of looks like a coffin though, doesn't it? Well, I wanted a curve on this. Oh, we put the fender washer on. And we put the wing nut on. I could probably have come up with a better way to hold this down, but you know, I could have put latches on and everything, but I was trying to keep the cost down. So that's it. So if you ever want to make a box or something to put in the back of your truck or whatever to carry some stuff in, you can make it any size you want. Let's just give you some ideas. Thanks for watching.